I think it goes without saying you have to really, really, really work super hard to get to a Super Bowl. And more importantly, you have to put your team in the right position to get there, with the right players to get there. And it's super, super, super hard. It's probably the hardest task of any in professional sports. And for the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, they did just that. And as I take a step back and I look at this Super Bowl matchup next Sunday, I say to myself, how the hell did we get here? When did the San Francisco 49ers get good again? And how did they do it? And when did the Kansas City Chiefs get good again? And how did they do it? And I came to one conclusion that is common within both franchises. And it is a common thread, obviously, in the National Football League. And that is a statement that I've said so many times on this podcast. And folks, thanks for tuning in. I'm Ryan Thomas, and you're tuning into the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker.com, Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take. You can also find clips on Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take as well. As I look at both of these franchises, I say to myself, there's one common denominator between both the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. What is that common denominator? Now, they have talent. Obviously, you have to have talent in order to get to the pinnacle of professional football, which is the Super Bowl. You can't get there with so-so players. The Kansas City Chiefs have offensive firepower. The San Francisco 49ers have a dangerous front seven and a solid run game, where the Kansas City Chiefs have an offense that can beat you any which way. And I think those are the two obvious things. But the turnarounds for both of these teams didn't really begin until the Kansas City Chiefs brought in Andy Reid and until the San Francisco 49ers brought in Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan, a 40-year-old head coach. Andy Reid has been around a long, long time. Back when Andy Reid was in his 40s, he was probably coaching in Green Bay, running, that offense, trying to get that offense on the right footing with Brett Favre under Mike Holmgren. And being a part of that coaching tree, being a part of that talented of an offense with a quarterback that could improvise and do a lot of things on the fly, the ultimate gunslinger, Brett Favre, Andy Reid kind of formed what type of offense that he wanted to run. He looked at Brett Favre and said, that's the type of quarterback I want in any which case of anywhere else I go within my head coaching career. I want a guy that can move in the pocket. I want a guy that can get rid of the ball quickly. I want a guy that can throw the ball very far. Donovan McNabb could do that in Philly, and you bet your ass Pat Mahomes can do that in Kansas City. So Andy Reid laid out a plan for not just the Philadelphia Eagles, but obviously the Kansas City Chiefs as well, that he wanted that history to somewhat repeat itself. He wanted that quarterback that could do those things in Green Bay, that could do those things in Philly, and ultimately that could do those things in Kansas City, and he got that. But I think as quarterback-driven a league that this is, I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs would have got there with just Pat Mahomes. I don't think that would have happened. That's not how football works. In football, you need pieces, to heighten the quote-unquote, I guess you could say, attributes of that particular player. And that's what the Kansas City Chiefs did. They brought in Demarcus Robinson. They're deep. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, bringing in LaShawn McCoy, Damian Williams. And you got to mention a guy by the name of Kareem Hunt that was a crucial piece of that offense as well, ultimately for reasons that we all know. He was off the team. But Andy Reid has done a phenomenal job building this team up. And when you go across the country, when you go across to the Bay Area, to the San Francisco 49ers, I think that there are very few coaches that have as impressively, brick by brick, laid the foundation of how he wants his team to look and how he wants his team to play than that of a Kyle Shanahan. As I said, 40 years old, from the pedigree of his father, Mike Shanahan, he comes in and he lays down the brick-by-brick foundation that is needed to make the San Francisco 49ers a Super Bowl contender again. And you have to find the draft steals here and there. You have to find the guys that explode and come out of nowhere. George Kittle in San Fran is, for my money, the second best tight end in the National Football League, arguably the first, but take your pick. Between the two best tight ends in the game, and Travis Kelce in Kansas City and George Kittle in San Fran. So both offenses have that built-in big man tight end dimension into their offense, and you're going to see it more and more and more throughout the National Football League as tight end has completely been revolutionized since Rob Gronkowski came into the league. So when I look at these teams roster for roster and I give you lay out the preview, I'm just over the moon with the notion that the San Francisco 49ers no more than 4 or 5 years ago were in the basement of the National Football League. No more than 4 or 5 years ago, the Kansas City Chiefs had a lot of question marks on that roster, not knowing who the future quarterback was going to be. They found their answer. They found their guy. The San Francisco 49ers getting hot last year up until Jimmy Garoppolo's torn ACL. You wondered if Jimmy Garoppolo would ever be the same. Jimmy Garoppolo, for all the criticisms that I have had of Jimmy Garoppolo over the last few weeks, Jimmy Garoppolo did play well enough to put the San Francisco 49ers in this position, in this spot. Whether you want to say that Jimmy Garoppolo isn't as great as he should be, whether you want to say that Jimmy Garoppolo is good, not great right now, I would agree with you on those things. But Jimmy Garoppolo still, albeit being good, not great, has put his team in place to compete for a Super Bowl championship. And this San Francisco 49ers defense is loaded on the defensive line, loaded on the defensive side of the ball. Nick Bosa is, for my money, one of the better young up-and-coming pass rushers in the league. But it's not just that. That is vague. It's how he rushes the passer. He can do it from any which way. He can run you over. He can outspeed you, outmaneuver you, finesse, power. He's got it all. And for the trade-off of Jimmy Garoppolo's ACL tear to be picking second overall or whatever it was and taking Nick Bosa, I mean, I don't want to say that's a good trade-off because you would never want somebody to get hurt, but at the same time, that's pretty good. You know, they made the most out of that pick within that situation. That's all I'm saying there. They made the most out of that situation of Jimmy Garoppolo tearing his knee, the team falling apart with C.J. Beathard at quarterback, and it wasn't due to the fact that Beathard is a bad quarterback or anything like that. He's actually a pretty decent backup, but they were really firing on all cylinders at that time with Jimmy G. I don't think the San Francisco 49ers have reclaimed that magic just yet. Maybe they will Super Bowl Sunday. I have given you my Super Bowl prediction. And for those that haven't heard it, that's why I'm on the audio side of things. That's why I'm on the audio side of things, telling it to you right here, right now. Telling it to you on the air, on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Telling you that this is going to be a great game no matter what. Between the Niners, between the Chiefs, this is going to be awesome. These are the two best teams in the National Football League, and arguably last year, we should have seen the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Had it not been for the dimwit D Ford jumping off sides, putting them off sides, and giving the hapless Patriots at the time an extra possession, extra set of downs. Tom Brady throws a pick to Kansas City. The game's thought to be over. No, it's not over. D Ford's off sides. Patriots proceed to go down the field and score. And the overtime rules were a hot topic within that game. I would like to think that this game will be close. I think it will be close. I think it will be a 28-24 game with the Kansas City Chiefs winning it, because I think as talented as the defense is for the San Francisco 49ers, and they're talented, this front seven is vicious. As talented as they are, there are so few ways out there to game plan for a guy like Pat Mahomes. This is one of the most unique quarterbacks I've ever watched. And, a lot of the older guys that tune into the show, they say, Ryan, you're young. You're, 26, 27? I'll be 28 in April. But I've watched a lot of great quarterbacks. I've watched some of the greatest quarterbacks ever in my era. The greatest, in my opinion, in Tom Brady, and the second greatest in Peyton Manning. Those guys, with all due respect, are sheer greatness, but there is nobody that I have ever seen in my whole life of watching football like Pat Mahomes. He's different. There is things to his game that no team can really prepare for. How do you game plan for this guy? How do you draw up on the whiteboard or on the chalkboard how you're going to contain him? You can try. You can damn well try, but nobody's really been able to figure him out yet, and I don't know if anybody ever will. Here we are. You think, well, first season he throws for 50 touchdowns. Was it just a flash in the pan year? Was it just one of those one and done? No, it was not. This guy is legit. This guy plays hurt. This guy puts himself in positions that no quarterback can put themselves in, even if they wanted to, even if they dreamed of putting themselves in that position. No quarterback can put themselves in the position of a Pat Mahomes. With the throws that he makes, with the style of his play, this guy is unique. I've questioned whether or not he'll last 10 years in the league based on how he plays, but I'll enjoy the next 10 years. I'll enjoy it. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I will enjoy it. So the main, I guess, strength of the 49ers defense is stopping Pat Mahomes. They can do that better than anyone on paper. But on paper is one thing. When the game is being played, when both teams are on the gridiron, that's something else. I've seen a lot of teams with great front sevens try to keep Pat Mahomes at bay. He's very tough to stop. And a factor that I think is being completely overlooked within this Super Bowl is that Pat Mahomes is finally 100%, finally healthy, and finally willing, ready, willing, and able, I should say, to step out on the field and do some work and put some stuff together, make stuff happen, as he does. And if you're the San Francisco 49ers, you're going to need a hell of a lot of effort. Hell of a lot of effort from Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't have Jimmy Garoppolo throw 8 times in a game and win it against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's just not going to happen. The passing game is going to have to be is going to have to happen. The Chiefs can score points quick. If the 49ers early on can stop the Chiefs from scoring quickly, keep the Chiefs at bay right out of the gate, then you kind of have a little bit of a, I guess, momentum on your side, if you will. If not, then you're screwed. If not, then you're you-know-what. But ultimately, I just see the Chiefs' offense being far too powerful, far too potent for that of the San Francisco defense. I think San Francisco's defense is great, and that's why I think this game is going to be close. As I said, it'll be a nail-biter. This won't be a blowout. 28-24. I think that's a great game. I think that's a close game, and I think that's a game that people will always remember. I have Pat Mahomes winning the MVP of the Super Bowl. I think he's going to put the team on his back. I think we're going to see some legendary moments, some classic moments, some albeit future look-back GOAT moments from Pat Mahomes as he tries to cement himself as one of the best to ever do it. Tried to get in the Super Bowl winning quarterback club. And there you have it. That's 15 minutes on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast with Ryan Thomas. I am very thankful for this show. I've greatly enjoyed a lot of interaction on my Instagram with the majority of my followers. Majority of my followers on Twitter. I haven't been as active on Twitter lately, but I definitely will be in the coming weeks, in the coming months, as we inch closer to the 2020 NFL Draft. Of course, as always, I'll keep you posted on all things combat sports, mixed martial arts, boxing. The UFC has 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 great title fights in the next 3 months. February 8th, Johnny Bones Jones comes back to look to defend his title against Dominic Reyes, a surging light heavyweight in the UFC light heavyweight division. And then you have February 22nd, the big boxing fight, Deontay Wilder. Big boxing rematch, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury 2, February 22nd. I'll be at the Amherst Ale House for that, breaking down that fight under the Trainwreck Sports banner. As well, you have March 7th or 8th, you have Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. You also have, in April, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. And obviously, with the quick 40-second knockout of Donald Cowboy Cerrone, we can expect the return of the Notorious One within the next couple months. There you have it. I'm Ryan Thomas. It was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Follow the podcast on Spotify. And also follow me on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take and Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take. Greatly appreciate it. Take care, everybody.